In the world today, there are so many crises going on, but were any of you aware that there's a mental health crisis in athletics? This may only seem like it relates to athletes, but it relates to all of you. Mental health is something that every person mostly struggles with, and as we're all entering college, we're all freshmen, besides Jazzy who's not here, we all have so many changes that we're experiencing. We're going from a new place, we're leaving home, we're starting to live on our own, figure out what to eat on our own, figuring out how we want to be active during the day, make our own schedules, and figure out how we want to balance social life and academics. So I've been researching this topic for 2 weeks, so I feel credible to talk about it and persuade you why it's important to know about this topic and why you should listen to what I'm saying. So my goal is to persuade you why this is important and why you should be aware of all the things I'm talking about today. So I will be going over the problem, the causes and barriers, and the solution to this problem. So first, let's talk about the problem. So as I said, a lot of college students deal with all of these mental health problems because of all the changes, but the biggest thing for athletes is balancing all those changes that I mentioned we're all experiencing, plus playing a high-level sport. So according to UW Medicine, suicide rates among college athletes has increased over the past 2 decades, Donahue 2024. So this is a big part of the problem because obviously we don't want suicide rates increasing, we want to decrease that. And it's why this is so important to be aware about, because obviously suicide rates increasing is a problem. That's the main problem here. So according to UW Medicine, again, during the 20-year study span, 1,102 athletes died, 128, 11.5% of whom died by suicide, according to Donahue 2024 again. So again, just seeing how the increase in mental health challenges and the lack of resources for athletes has caused suicide rates to increase. Also, the stigma around mental health, there's a stigma around mental health not only in athletics, but in every mental health challenge, but specifically in athletics because there's such a stigma, athletes feel trapped kind of. So that's leading me to the causes. Why is there such a large stigma around mental health and seeking help? So now on to the causes and barriers. So according to WMUC Sports, the mental health crisis within college athletes is a silent struggle, or it's seen 2023. So this is a silent struggle because of the stigma. Athletes feel like because of the stigma, they want to uphold their expectations for themselves, plus the people that have expectations around them. That could be parents, coaches, siblings, other teammates. All these expectations lead to a lot of pressure to do good and feel like they can't come out if they're struggling. So according to River Oak Psychology, some of the stigmas and things that athletes feel like they'll be seen as dramatic or unreliable if they say they're struggling with their mental health. They avoid therapy because they may feel like it means they're broken. And they may downplay their mental health in fear of losing playing time or scholarships, and that's according to Persuasive 2020. So these fears are what create the stigma and leave athletes feeling like they have to struggle alone and in silence. Another thing that is a cause is the quote perfect life. Athletes go from being the #1 player in high school, on their high school team, on their club team. High school is great, there's a lot of less stress factors. They're playing club, doing good, they get their offer, they commit to their dream school, and everything's going great. And then they seem like they're living the perfect life, and then they get to college, and there's all the extra factors like living on your own that I mentioned before that everyone who doesn't play a sport also experiences. So this perfect life they want to uphold from high school, but that's why they struggle in silence, because they don't want to seem like they're not living the perfect life anymore. WMUC Sports says that depression affects 7% of the general population, but ranges 15 to 21% among college athletes, or it's in 2024. And the jump from the general population to student athletes going from 7% to 15 to 21% is kind of crazy when you think about it. That's such a large difference from the general population to just the student athlete population. So these types of factors that I mentioned before are what explain the stigma and why suicide rates and depression rates have increased in athletes. So now moving on to the solution. So I researched a topic which I also was involved in high school, or a organization. It's called Morgan's Message Organization. So it's a nonprofit organization with the goal of ending the stigma around mental health and athletics. It was started right around COVID, when Morgan Rogers, who was a Duke lacrosse player, committed suicide after dealing with mental health struggles for a while. So Morgan's Message can have chapters implemented on college campuses. They also are on high school campuses. And they kind of just offer resources and meetings for athletes to talk about their mental health struggles in a safe place. They talk about adapting to changes in college, injury, mental health, because there's a lot of new challenges that come with being injured as a college athlete. And they just offer a community and safe space for athletes to talk about their mental health and not feel like they have to be silenced. And Morgan's Message has proven to be helpful. According to Katie Johnson, who's a lacrosse player at LaSalle University, she said that she has trouble opening up to athletic directors or advisors that are appointed to athletes. But when she went to a Morgan's Message meeting, she felt a lot more comfortable because she was surrounded just by student athletes experiencing similar things as her. And in these meetings, there aren't any teachers, coaches, advisors present. It's just the student leader of the Morgan's Message chapter and the athletes who choose to join the chapter and attend those meetings. So that creates just a super safe space for athletes to express how they're feeling and can relate to other athletes. It's really hard when you feel like you're alone, so having other athletes to relate to is super helpful, especially in that safe space. So an action step is implementing a Morgan's Message chapter at your college or high school, and just becoming more aware of the factors that affect athletes and students, because seeing those factors you can help your friends or a friend who's an athlete. Thank you.